Okay, discussion information items to do the COVID-19 presentation.
Okay, Dave, if you could set that up so it will be on both. People can see at home as well as, so we've done a couple things since the last board meeting to just finalize the transition plan back with students back on campus. The first thing I'd like to highlight is when you go to the main web page, you will now see that the COVID information is right at the front of the web page. The reason for this is to make sure people are very clear on where the plan is, if you need information, the calendar of what days your students need to attend based on the alpha split, and as well as keeping track of the local positivity rates and case data for our school matrices. When you click on that, you'll see the top part is our transition plan, which is, when we're in remote learning, virtual or in-person, virtual and in-person learning, and then finally the green phase, which is in-person only. Slightly below that on the web page, and the board members have this on their Chromebooks as well, is all the case data and information in regards to the weekly case data that comes up on the Cook County Department of Public Health that we're using to justify having students on campus, or in the event we need to transition back to remote learning. So I think the first thing that needs to be made clear tonight to everybody watching is that this is a very fluid situation, and we will continue to post this data on a weekly basis and align it to the school matrices that were provided by the IDPH and the Cook County Department of Public Health to keep us on track with our current plan. If we scroll back up to the top, you'll see that you can click on the actual plan, and it says click here, and it will take it to a bigger version so you can see the whole screen. In the upper left-hand corner are the RB matrices and guidance, which we discussed at the last board meeting in September, at the September Committee of the Whole. And Dave, if you could click on that for me, please. The left corner, there you go. You got to sign into that? Okay, so if you click on that from the website, that will show you the 3 levels of transmission levels and what the case rate should be. The second thing on the main chart is if you go under the schedule and the plan, you'll see where it says half-day schedule and plan. So if we click on that and leave that up for a minute, I can talk about that.
Yeah, somebody's going to have to open up the share settings on that, because even I'm getting that from the web, right? Okay, so Mr. Fisher will fix that while we take a minute here to talk about the schedule. But the main part of the plan is the half-day schedule, and this went out to all parents on Friday, so people had enough time to view this. And a couple things. Why are we going with the 7 periods? Okay, the 7-period classes. We fielded some questions. Parents are like, well, my kids are losing instructional time. Under remote instruction, classes were 40 minutes. Under this schedule, class periods will be 35 minutes. So your students are only losing 5 minutes per class period. And we did this so that we can easily transition from 25%, and hopefully at a point in November we can transition to 50%. The concerns really come up with the student lunches and providing opportunities with groups of 50 throughout the building. We won't be able to manage that capacity in our building. Our campus is just not laid out to do that safely. And so we went with this 7-period schedule so that students can see their teachers every day. The students that elect to stay remote, which right now is about 32 to 33%, those students are getting the same instruction as the students that are coming in on campus. We fielded some questions about what's the purpose of bringing students back on campus if for this second quarter teachers are going to still be teaching on a virtual platform, whether it's Zoom or Google Meets? Well, there's a couple, right? The first thing is it's a process. I need to make that real clear to parents. This is truly a process. The first step in that process is getting students and staff comfortable being back on campus in classrooms together, where we can still do some social distancing, people can still wear their masks, but we haven't been back on campus since March.
So the first step in this process is getting people coming back on campus, going through their schedules. This is a benefit for students because it gives students an opportunity to get out of their bedrooms or their kitchens or their dining rooms, wherever they're doing remote learning, and come back to campus. For the first phase will be for the 25%, will be 1 day a week, but it's an opportunity to get out of bed, get back to some normalcy of going through your schedule, getting on campus, going from class to class, seeing some of your classmates, seeing your teachers. Yes, you're still interacting via Zoom, but some teachers will do that differently. Some teachers will project a Zoom in the classroom. Some teachers will have students participate both through the projected method or through the Chromebook, but it's an opportunity to get some of that face-to-face interaction. And then the second phase will be to try to transition to 50%. And if second quarter goes well and our case data stays in the moderate level, we talked last week with the board and the union about revisiting what that hybrid plan or what type of a plan we can implement second semester so that we can begin to start having some in-person instruction. But we have to go through this first phase of getting students and teachers used to being back together on campus and following all the safety procedures that we've had to put in place. I'm sure if you walk down the hallways tonight, you've seen the tape through the hallways, making one-way hallways. You see all the stairs designated, which stairway is going up, which stairway is going down. So there are a lot of things that we need to get everybody acclimated to and become comfortable with, because I think we're going to be in this for a long time, at least the rest of the school year, where we're going to have to be following some of these safety procedures. So that's the intention of the first part of this process. The subgroups, we wanted to make sure that we had made this a collaborative process, so we have multiple subgroups that are participating and working, and so they help put together some of the logistical plans that you see attached that went out to the parents, as well as some of the safety procedures and some of the things that are going in place and that will be sent out to staff members later this week to make sure that the plan is implemented safely. So October 19th is a weird week. It's the first week of second quarter. It starts the first week of second quarter, but we only have 3 days of instruction. Thursday is parent-teacher conferences, and Friday is an institute day. And so the logic of having only freshmen attend for those first 3 days, broken down by alpha group, was our freshmen had one opportunity to come on campus, and that was during orientation week for 1 day, whether they did AM or PM session. So we thought it was important for that first week to give freshmen an opportunity to get acclimated with all the safety procedures, kind of refiguring out their schedule. They haven't had to walk through their schedule since freshman orientation or that orientation week. So just giving them an opportunity to kind of shake the cobwebs out and to come on campus and to participate and see their teachers again and get used to where their classes are and what they need to do. The week of October 26th is when we'll officially start the 25% process, and that's broken down by alpha slice. Dr. Freitas put a nice calendar in the plan that went out to all the families, so you have a clear understanding of when your student comes to school. The goal of this is to try to do this for 2 weeks. So 2 things would need to happen. We want to make sure all the safety procedures and students are following the rules that are in place, like wearing their masks and following social distancing when possible, washing your hands, and not congregating in the hallways or places where we can't do social distancing. But if all that's going well and our positivity rates are still low and in the moderate on our school matrixy page, then we would try to transition to 50%. We would do that for 2 weeks. And again, if things are going well with our case data, as well as the implementation of all our safety guidelines with 50% of students on campus, we'll do that for 2 weeks. The week of Thanksgiving, we only have 2 days of classes. So it makes sense to allow students to learn remotely for those 2 days. It also provides an opportunity to keep everybody separated before you go to see your loved ones over the Thanksgiving holiday. So the week of Thanksgiving is kind of like a restart, a break, a regroup, where students will learn those 2 days remotely. Then they'll have the Wednesday through Friday off for the Thanksgiving holiday. We come back before winter break. We would have 2 weeks of 50%. Again, At any time, this can go backwards. If we start to get, if our positivity rates or our case data increases and we have to flip back to remote, we can. So this schedule kind of keeps that fluidity possible. And then we still have not made a final decision with the teachers. We're talking with the teachers and the instructional coaches, but we're looking at finals week if it's better to just have a regular instruction week or no finals. We're going back and forth on that a little bit, but I think it's leaning towards no finals, but no final decision has been made. So Dr. Freitas will work with the instructional coaches and the teachers to make a final decision on that and send that information out. So with all that being said, I just want to take a minute to acknowledge, like, I understand, you know, as I stated back in August, and then I stated again in September, and now I'm stating again in October, there is no right solution here. I do think this is the best solution right now. The first step of the process is getting staff and students back on campus. Our model is very, very similar to a lot of the local high schools in our area that are bringing students back on campus. Because you have to still provide that remote piece for any student that does not want to come back on campus. This is a very similar model to what a lot of the other high schools are doing. Their schedules may be slightly different. Their campus may be slightly bigger to where they can provide lunch, but everybody is doing something very similar to this because we've all been meeting since last May, just talking about how school will look like this year. So I just want to echo that we're not doing something that's way outside of the box that there's no educational value to. This is something that we do believe is the first step of getting back to how to function and play school during a pandemic. I think that's all the points I needed to cover. I'd like to take a minute to see if there's any discussion from the board or any questions from the board.
I think that was a very good summary. Could you just provide, I think it's been in the packet, some of the high-level safety considerations again, which I know are important to the students, the faculty, the families, just so we have a rundown of those?
That's the major. The safety stuff is, we restarted, we shifted around some of Aramark's. Aramark is our custodial provider, so we have 2 custodians assigned throughout the school day. This has been happening already throughout the school day while teachers have been on campus, but they just do nothing but go around for the first 4 hours of each of their shifts and do nothing but continue to wipe banisters, doorknobs, bathrooms, clean areas. So there's constantly 2 people walking around cleaning high traffic areas in the school. We re-established our HVAC system schedule so that our HVAC system starts at 4 a.m. and runs through at least 7 p.m. So there are multiple outside air changes well before the staff and students will be on campus and well after staff and students are on campus to make sure there's sufficient airflow. Besides airflow and the safety standards, we've purchased several partitions and dividers for teachers, as well as working with the accommodation process with Kristen and HR to make sure people that needed any type of accommodations or had health concerns, those accommodations have been met. We have established, let's slip in my head right now.
Hand sanitizer, as well as wipes and masks
in every classroom. Right.
We shut off water fountains so that only the water bottle fill part is active so that water fountains can't be used. Additionally, Aramark uses a hospital grade sanitizer as they would during any flu season, but they've been using that since March.
And to add, we will be using the Raptor self-certification system that is currently being used in 96, where parents will receive an email and they ask 5 few questions related to COVID-19 symptoms. And if they respond to yes, automatically we get notified, not to admit that student, but if they get no, we get the clearance and we will let that student in. So the students will be screened, and we'll also be doing the temperature checks here when they get to school.
We had additional staff trained to do contact tracing to support the Cook County Department of Public Health. The Cook County Department of Public Health does the primary contact tracing, but then we still have to work to see if there was any groups or activities or teams that may have had close contact when we do have a positive case. So we had several people on staff go through the CDC contact tracing webinars. So those people will directly be responsible to handling our contact tracing. So we have taken several steps to get to a point to where I do feel it is time to start bringing students back on campus.
Thank you. I think I want to ask a follow-up question with Dr. Freitas and the certification. What else are we doing to communicate to, again, students and families the importance of transparency and the 3 W's and that piece of this, which is so important into the partnership of bringing them back to campus?
So, of course, we're doing e-blast. I will follow up with a phone blast every Monday, except this past Monday. I've been doing kind of a live Instagram, just giving people updates, of our plans. And then tomorrow, from 7 to 8 p.m., I will review the plan in details. We have 1 hour schedule. I'm only going to take 20 minutes, and I'm going to take 40 minutes for questions. So for every student and family member that is interested in what our plan is, has questions or want to know more, please attend the meeting. My last parent meetings have been pretty good. I've had over 100 parents attend, so I'm expecting that and even more. But parents, tomorrow is an opportunity, parents and students, for us to get together and talk about these safety protocols. It's an opportunity for us to get together, and so I can respond to any questions you have or any doubts and concerns that you may have. So those are some of the things that I've done and I will be doing.
An additional safety measure that I didn't touch on that this plan provides is parents, students, if at any time you're experiencing any symptoms or not feeling good that morning, this first phase of this plan allows you to stay home and get the same instruction you would if you're in class. Yes, you'll miss some of that social interaction, you'll miss some of that face-to-face interaction, but at this point in time, we have to be more safe. We have to make sure safety is our top concern if we want to expand this into second semester and try to get back to a true hybrid model. And so what this model provides is, if your parents, students, if your child's not feeling good, or students, you're old enough now, if you're not feeling well that morning, it's better to attend remotely than to risk it, okay? And I know in the old days, or I shouldn't say old days, up until last year, we used to incentivize kids to have good attendance. This attendance won't hurt against you if you attend remotely until you feel 100% to be back on campus. Are there any other questions from the board? Tom?
So I want to circle onto an aspect. We're obviously doing this, or we're about to authorizing moving into this next phase in addressing all the needs that have been expressed by members of community, and obviously we do it because we believe we're moving in the right direction. Over the last 2 weeks at least, there have been multiple reports that the in-class instruction will be nothing else than what we do right now. It's just that students would be sitting in a classroom as opposed to at home. That's of concern to me because, first of all, I don't believe that is accurate, but I would like to hear a little more about, these have been opinions and voices coming out of this building partially, and I think it's very important that we're as clear as we can be with all members of the community what that in-person instruction will look like, and is there a laptop and earphones, and how can students in that classroom interact with teachers?
So we piloted this a couple times in the instructional coaches meeting, and Dr. Freitas was a part of that, so I'll let him speak to that shortly. But I think it's important that parents understand the first phase of this process, which this plan lays out. The teacher primarily will still be teaching on the computer to the 75% of the students at home. those 25% of students that are in the classroom will be engaging in that instruction just like the 75% that are at home, or however those percentages break down of who chooses to come or who chooses not to come. The importance of that goes back to what I originally said, the first process of having students on campus and getting comfortable with teachers and students back in classrooms. How those teachers decide to teach that, some teachers may teach to the Zoom and have their students participate while on their Chromebook in their classroom. What worked best for when we piloted it with the instructional coaches was projecting the Zoom. So the kids that were, the people that were on campus would be watching the Zoom on the big screen in the classroom and only using their Chromebook to participate in the chat room or to hear the questions that were submitted through their earbuds, or to actually ask their questions so the kids at home can pick up on it on the Zoom to hear that. So there is some teacher interaction. What I want to make clear under this first plan is the kids on campus won't be doing a hands-on lab while the kids at home are just watching. We're not there yet because we'd have to clean all the equipment between classes and do some things, but it's a step towards that hopefully we can start to do that second semester. Dr. Freitas, you want to go with?
And when we kind of experimented, big shout out to Kylie Lindquist, our assistant principal, and to the ICs, when we experimented having a staff member kind of, speak, through a virtual platform and people be live with our headphones, we ran into, interference, into volume issues. It's been a challenge. So what we've noticed that works best to get everyone on the same page is to have everyone wear a headphone and ask the questions through kind of the headset. Because if someone has their volume on and is speaking to the computer, it kind of creates this interference. And so, big shout out to everyone that helped me experience that. We did it twice, and we kind of, figured and concluded that the best way to have a clear picture is for everyone to have a headset while they're speaking and engaging. And to really add to what Dr. Skinkis said, our direction, our guidance to our staff is this, right? We're going to engage students daily. We're going to monitor them, right? Take attendance. However, for the continuity of learning and to make sure that we're all on the same page, at least at this moment, I'm not saying that it cannot evolve, the best way is to have everyone learn through, Google Meets or through Zoom. However, we're not going to stop. If a teacher wants to get creative, as long as they feel safe to do so and wants to have, some students at home doing activity and students in person do something else, we're okay with that. We're never going to squash creativity. On the contrary, we promote academic freedom. That's what makes, I think, our high school very special. But it's going to be a journey to get back to what traditional teaching looked like. So at the moment, that's our plan, Mr. Jacobs.
And so having people in the classroom, a lot of times what happens is the teachers will establish a breakout room on the Zoom call or on the Google Meets call, and then kids will work in those small breakout rooms together. Well, as long as this under the 25% model, those students might be able to that might be one breakout room with those kids in class. That's, it's the same thing. I know there's been groups of students meeting at Starbucks and groups of students meeting at each other's houses and doing little learning groups each day to go through their classes. This is providing some of that and moving that in the same direction. The other thing that came up, and I do want to touch on this, is, we went back and forth as a board and as a school district with the Zooms and whether kids had to have their cameras on, not have their cameras on. And we have received feedback from our teachers, and I think the board saw this in the survey that went out after the first 2 weeks or 3 weeks of remote learning, right? Just the face-to-face interaction. A lot of our students might, they sign into the Zoom call and then they turn their camera off, and the teacher doesn't know if they're paying attention or listening or participating. Well, now providing that opportunity for that student to come to class and actually see their facial expressions. Yes, it's half of their face is covered with a mask, but you can kind of see if a kid's getting it or is rubbing their head or rolling their eyes because they're not understanding, and that might provide the teacher an opportunity to say, hey, wait, maybe I need to teach this a different way or slow this down, or if you're having questions, maybe you can submit them in the chat room. Some of that's not occurring right now on the Zoom or Google Meet, so this is what I'm saying. It's the next step in the process.
Yeah. If I could just, as an educator, it's been rough. Right? Like we do this on Zoom or on Google Meets, and you're looking out there and you're not getting any feedback, right? So now that you're gonna have a quarter of the kids in front of you, there's that whole body language piece that connect with, you know, just human to human, not even teacher to kid, right? So I'm confident that this staff, these teachers, everybody in the building, right, is going to be able to do what it takes to innovate, to make changes, and that's, you know, that's hard, right? Like, I mean, and we ask it of our kids every day, right? We want you to learn, we want you to grow. These teachers, they're gonna be uncomfortable, and it's gonna get a little messy, right? Because when we have that circle, right? We live here most of the time because it's easy, right? And then as that next outer concentric circle is where it gets a little rough, and then the farthest out circle around those two is where the learning and the growing takes place, right? And everybody's got to get over to there, and it's not going to be easy, but they will, all the kids and the adults have to move in that direction, and that can be a little scary, right? And I think that's where some of this is coming from, right? Like, one of the things that is very hard for some teachers is like, and this is the way we were taught, it's not the way we want kids to learn now, but like, I am the sage on the stage, I am the holder of the knowledge, right? What we say now is we want you to be the guide on the side. So if they've bought into that, this transition won't be so hard for them. But if they're still like, I'm the sage on the stage, and you come and you listen to me and you do whatever I say, right? Kind of, not exactly like that, but if there are some staff, and I'm not necessarily saying it's RB staff, I'm generalizing teachers, have that, this makes that even harder. So, but I'm confident that, I think that these teachers will be able to connect with the kids both online and in person eventually.
So,
right? They'll get there.
One other thing that did come up that we did field some questions on, and to reiterate this, and I know where the board's at with this now, but we do have a few staff members that have some high-risk medical conditions, and we need to make some accommodations for them. And as we talked about back in August when we were going through this, and in September, no one can teach our classes better than our teachers themselves. So for these few teachers that do have some of these medical conditions, some of them will be teaching in an office in the building, and we'll have a staff member or a substitute supervising the class and projecting the Zoom, setting up the technology, but so those kids can still interact in that class. And it might only be one class in that student's schedule, but it's better to have that teacher teaching that class than to ask that teacher to take a leave and get a substitute that doesn't have any knowledge of the content or where they are right now in the curriculum after first quarter, and to teach that class. So I know there were some parents that submitted questions on that, and Dr. Freitas did a nice job talking through those parents. And again, is this ideal? Well, a pandemic's not ideal. None of this is ideal. Wearing a mask and trying to talk to the board for a couple hours is not ideal. This is the changes. We're trying to be as flexible as possible and as effective as possible for your students.
But is that teacher here on campus?
Most of those teachers will be somewhere in the building, yes.
Okay, because we cannot give concessions to be easy when our families are now stressed to the breaking edge because companies are coming back.
Right. These are not concessions. These are accommodations under ADA. So we've worked directly with our legal department.
Yeah, whatever
to make sure.
Their doctor says, right?
Right.
You have to do what the doctor.
So I think, Tom, you know, I had a lot of the same questions this week, and I called Kevin probably every day. He was so excited to hear from me. But particularly because, you know, some of the, you know, the feedback I got from parents and from kids is, you know, that they can't even drink water in the classroom and some crazy outlandish things. But the this is kind of a best practice, I think, and you know, we talked about how other schools and other districts across the state are doing this, and I you know, as I've stated plenty of times, I never want to go into a what are other people doing. We'll do that. I want to go, what is the best practice? How are we coming back? What is the best way for the kids to come back? And this is kind of the model that many schools, or what I'm told, you can tell me again, please, and tell the community of the way these schools are coming back throughout the state to have children be in-person learning.
High schools.
High schools. Yes.
Yeah, it's a good distinction.
because high schools are a little more complicated.
No, and I appreciate that additional information. I think I would just, to the extent that the community is watching or listening tonight, I think there was a lot of information just shared that is very important to provide context.
Yes, for sure.
And so forth. I guess I'm going to say it every time if necessary. I think because of the crisis nature, the uncertain conditions, it's a matter of attitude. And I would like to, encourage all of us and every member of the community to start from a positive attitude where we assume that we are doing it because we want to learn, we're going to improve, we want to do it better for the kids. But when I hear things, when I hear students all of a sudden getting feedback and being discouraged even more so than they were when they weren't sure whether we were ever going to go back, I just think that doesn't really serve a good purpose. If we do this in good faith, I'm expecting every member of this community to support that, and otherwise, it's not helpful.
Right. Everyone needs to rise to the occasion, right?
Yes.
I would agree. I do think, I would hope that some of that feedback you're hearing, maybe some of those staff members that were maybe having some conversations with students, I think the biggest thing for some of the teachers that I have talked with is they want to make sure parents don't come in with a false set of expectations. They want to make sure parents don't think like, hey, we're jumping right back into where we left off in March, because it's not going to look like that. And then maybe in the process of relaying that message, some people maybe have not been as positive as what you just said, but I would hope on how this plan has been put together, the collaboration that's been used, the meeting that we had last week with the RBA, I would think everybody's putting their best foot forward.
Well, I would just add, I think we've seen so far this year some amazing flexibility and creativity in pockets around this building. And I think those are some really positive stories, right? Whether it's on the musical performance front or on the sports front or Hispanic Heritage Month, you have things happening that are very engaging to the students and to the staff and the community, and those are solutions in all of this uncertainty. I've just been so impressed by some people's creativity and going the extra mile, and I know that everyone has it in them to do that. I think Tom said it very well. This is uncharted territory, so we're just doing the absolute best. Everyone needs to continue to do the best they can.
Okay. So I guess.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask something. Do we have the results of a survey saying how many students are planning on coming?
It was roughly like 68 to 32, something like that, 67, 33.
Okay, thank you.
All right, well, let's move on. Before we move on, I do have a statement I'd like to read. I want to start with a genuine thank you from the Board of Education to all the teachers, support staff, administrators, and students who've been and are working diligently towards a positive outcome to the challenges we are facing. This is new territory for all involved. I met with the president of the RBEA, Dan Bonarigo, along with the superintendent, Dr. Skinkis, on multiple occasions since the start of the school year. These meetings were reassuring and culminated in an all Board of Education and RBEA Executive Committee meeting last Tuesday in the cafeteria. While not all the concerns were addressed or even solved, it was very apparent that progress was being made. Both the Board of Education and the RBEA have shown a willingness to collaborate and work towards solutions to meet the needs of all of our students. These discussions can and did get passionate at times. And what these discussions say to us as a board is that both parties truly care about our students and faculty's health needs. This is a relationship I would expect nothing less. I want to assure the community and staff that we are proud of our educators, The work that has been done and will be done in the future for the betterment of our children is obvious from our continued negotiations. We look forward to a smooth, orderly, and safe opening on October 19th. We look forward to leveraging technology so that our students receive the best education possible during these challenging times. I look forward to a cooperative student body and workforce in the coming months so that we can increase our student population to 50% beginning November 9th. I challenge the Board of Education, the administration, community, and the RBEA and its members to pledge to be a leader in education innovation moving into the new year. This will not be an easy task. However, I'm confident our community will persevere together. Thank you very much.